and Senator Martin.
Well, without,
Okay, that's good.
I got him in chair and he left. I don't know what's happened. Well, as our last public meeting, I want to thank the participants up to date on all of their robust conversations. I've had further feedback loops on the proposal for the economic development tourism plan. I forget the LCO title of the bill for the economic development in the Stonington, Groton area, with a particular request to potentially include New London. I'm saying that as my LCO sits down. So I think we'll have some amendments yet as we work on the bill. I want to emphasize that bill, which I think will have robust support from the committee, is a work in progress to identify the interested parties to get the dialogue going for economic development in that region of the state, which is phenomenal and doing so well. So I'll be working on that. That's about my only other update. I look forward to the conversation today. I believe on Thursday we will have a meeting. We will be voting, I believe, some bills out potentially. I expect we'll keep the votes open till 2 or 3. We'll send out a public communication on that scheduling for Thursday. If members have issues in terms of voting, we'll bring it back to them to try to keep the voting open longer. I know we're all in a crush of many meetings. I want to make sure people can actually participate and vote. So we'll look more on that on Thursday. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Meskers. And so with that, we will begin our public hearing. And Madam Clerk, you have the speakers list. If you could share it, and we don't see it.
Right underneath the agenda.
Oh, very brief. And so I would like to welcome our CMO, Chief Manufacturing Officer of the state of Connecticut, Paul Lavoie.
Well, thank you, Madam Chairman, and good morning. Good morning, members of the Commerce Committee. I am Paul Lavoie, Connecticut's Chief Manufacturing Officer, and I'm here to talk to you about Bill 5501, which is a study to look at the issues in the manufacturing sector. And I wanted to just give you a brief overview of the Office of Manufacturing and what we're doing and some of the key issues that we have identified in the manufacturing sector. As you hopefully are aware, Connecticut has a strategic plan for manufacturing. It was introduced in 2023, and it has identified 3 areas of concern with Connecticut's manufacturers. First and foremost, as no surprise to any of us, 86% of Connecticut manufacturers will tell you that the lack of an available and skilled workforce is their #1 impediment to growth. We work very, very closely with the Office of Workforce Strategy and the Chief Workforce Officer to continue to make sure that we have workforce development programs that are in place, that if anybody in the state of Connecticut is interested in having a career in manufacturing, we're able to provide them with the training and skills that they need to meet the current needs of our manufacturing sector. Addition to that, it's all around workforce growth. We need to make sure that we have more people participating in the workforce and that we have more people in the state as well. Simply put, there are not enough people in the state of Connecticut to fill all of our open jobs, but especially our manufacturing jobs. And the third area that we've identified around workforce development is innovation. How do we drive innovation in the manufacturing sector to get machines to do the work for people that we're never going to have? We are never hiring our way out of the problem in the manufacturing sector. It's just never going to happen. There's not enough people. And so we're really looking at how we can drive industrial automation and robotics, and digital transformation, and additive manufacturing, all designed around to get more work done with the existing workforces that we have. In addition to the Manufacturing Strategic Plan, the Manufacturing Innovation Fund publishes their annual report, which is a summary of the investments that we're currently making in the manufacturing sector to deal with these challenges. Again, the #1 challenge being workforce. The second largest challenge is how do we reduce the cost of doing business in the state of Connecticut? And the Office of Manufacturing is working on several programs that are all designed around reducing energy costs. We also support CBIA's effort to reduce healthcare costs by allowing companies to aggregate their healthcare costs as well. And we have federal grants that are also that we've been awarded by the Department of Energy, all designed around how to reduce carbon emissions and improve energy efficiency within Connecticut's manufacturing sector. We were one of 7 states selected by the Department of Energy for a state leadership grant in energy and energy conservation. Additionally, the third piece, so it's workforce is the number 1 issue. Number 2 is the cost of business and building supply chain resiliency. And the third is driving innovation. Right now, the Office of Manufacturing is currently running 38 programs that are all designed around solving the challenges of Connecticut's manufacturers. 14 of those are around workforce, and they're done in conjunction with the Office of Workforce Strategy. 12 are around innovation and driving innovation in the manufacturing sector. 4 around supply chain resiliency. 4 programs around the clean economy. 4 programs around communication, and we have 9 programs that we have completed in the Office of Manufacturing. So there's a couple of things that are available to you. The Manufacturing Strategic Plan is available to you. CBIA does an annual report every year of the challenges within Connecticut's manufacturing sector. That is available as well. And then each month, the Office of Manufacturing produces an update and status report on the 38 programs that we're running that are all designed around solving the challenges that our Connecticut manufacturers are currently facing. So I really wanted to give you an update of the fact that the Office of Manufacturing has our arms around our manufacturing sector. We understand the challenges. We've met with over 1,000 manufacturers in a 2-year period under my service as the Connecticut's Chief Manufacturing Officer. We understand what the issues are, but more importantly, we are working diligently on solutions to those challenges. I spend very little time now talking about the problems and an immense amount of time working on the solutions so that we can continue to strengthen and grow the manufacturing sector here in the state of Connecticut. Thank you.
Thank you very much for being with us. Did you submit written testimony to us, Paul?
I did, yes.
Okay, great. That's helpful because people are, and as you know, by this time in all different committees at the same time. So yeah, first off, and thank you for being here in person because it's a real important opportunity for the committee to do some FaceTime and understand the depth and the breadth of the operations that are going on in the CMO area. But I'm wondering if you would comment on another item that is on our agenda, and that is item number 4, addressing resources for launching an advanced manufacturing apprenticeship and robotics center. And I think you probably know the details of that in relation to the CSU and the Tunxis program.
I'm aware of the details at a cursory level. I understand there's been a report, but I have not seen the report yet. So I don't know the details of the working group that have put together the report. I know that the leaders of the working group have had several conversations as we've gone along the process. I am a supporter of demand-driven education and demand-driven training versus what is known as supply-driven. And supply-driven, just simply put, is that we have workers that need to be trained, so we're going to develop training programs to train them. Demand-driven is that industry is calling for this training. Industry demands this training. Industry has open jobs, and that we need to make sure that we're putting the training programs in place to meet the demand based of industry that we have out there. Should this center prove that it has demand based, that there is a demand in the area for this kind of training, I think that makes sense from a bonding perspective. I support the governor's budget, so I really can't make any comment on the bonding portion of it. But from an overall perspective, if it's a demand driven program and the industry is demanding that these skills are necessary for them to meet the needs of their customers, then that would make sense to me.
So if I might follow on, so demand driven, would you not characterize a model which is robustly participated in by the private sector, the actual manufacturing entities, as being partners in working through, and whether you call it a FAME model, and I'm sure you're familiar with that, or some of the other models, but it essentially is, this public-private partnership in doing a truncated work week with, on-site training, academic training, credentialing, and then with the work, actually, if you want to call that the clinical, right on the actual manufacturing floor, recognizing that we are, looking to target our resources to demand what we need, knowing that at the end of the program, the credentialing, the coursework, there is a job, which is obviously going to meet the challenges that are identified in all of these reports that we deal with on the manufacturing sector. So that's the model. And I guess I'm asking you to take a close look at it.
Yep.
And tell me where and how you can partner in this initiative. We've been talking for a long time, and you're started with your predecessor about a FAME type model, which we saw worked so well in the Toyota situation, in Detroit, in those areas, where you're targeted to an actual job and your apprenticeship is tied into that, at the end of the academic course. So we fill the seats, which obviously our census are down, but we're meeting critical challenges for our workforce here in Connecticut. And we recognize, with the retirements and the competition from other states, that that's going to continue to be a pain point for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, Senator Hartley. I've been involved in workforce development heavily over the 2 years of my term and my service. And it really has come to the forefront to me that we have a tremendous workforce development system in place here in the state of Connecticut. And where we fall down is industry engagement. And it really is making sure that we have demand-driven models that say that here are the workers that we need. Here are the programs that can support those workers. Here are the workers. Here are the wraparound services that they need, and have them come through the system that way. And where when we talk about veterans and we talk about second chance workers and we talk about people with intellectual disabilities, we talk about women in manufacturing, what we're finding is that we need to build the demand. We need to make sure that we have the industry engagement so that industry understands that in order to solve the workforce problem, you need to look at 100% of the available people within that workforce challenge. And that has been, I think that is the next frontier for the Office of Manufacturing, is how do we drive industry engagement? How do we aggregate manufacturers across the ecosystem to understand that if you have job openings, you can no longer sit on the sidelines and say, I have job openings. You have to put some skin in the game. You have to do what a number of manufacturers are currently doing, but we need much more of them, because people are telling me that they have groups of people that are ready to work, but they don't know what skills they need to train them in, and they don't know what jobs to put them into. So we need to reverse that on a large scale. We're doing it on a smaller scale now, but everybody I talk to in the workforce development sphere, when I say industry engagement, they nod their heads saying, we need more of that. And I think that's where the Office of Manufacturing has the ability to speak to manufacturers, to aggregate manufacturers and come back and say, we need your voices, but more importantly, we need your data. We need to understand what it is that we're solving for. What kind of jobs do you need? And how can we best provide training to be able to provide you with those people? So I wholeheartedly agree that, as we look at workforce development, moving from a supply side to a demand side is essential. And that entails industry engagement. And that means reaching out to 4,568 manufacturers to get them to understand that of everything that the state is available to them to be able to help them solve their problems.
Thank you for that. And just one more comment before I defer to my colleagues, and that is, so it wasn't that long ago that there was a concept hatched from this committee, from the manufacturing caucus at large, that this state needed a chief manufacturing officer. We went through a few iterations. We were calling it manufacturing czar and the like. And then, of course, the timing could not have been, better, because we then found ourselves full throttle into the pandemic. And it was the Office of the Chief Manufacturing Officer that really helped raise Connecticut on a national level on a number of fronts, supplies to, the healthcare industry, the manufacturing industry, and so forth. So it wasn't that long ago. A lot has been accomplished, but I will say this. The one thing, when we put this together, and it was here where it started, there
Yes.
was a lot of opposition against this position because, and rightfully so, the pushback was, well, if we have one for manufacturing, we need one for finance, we need one for industry, so on and so forth. But manufacturing is so steeped and such a legacy in this state that we were certain that it was important that we embed an officer on the cabinet level for manufacturing, and we got that done. But I will say that there continues to be, we continue to watch very closely, and to be supportive, in scaling this so that we have the full benefit to the state and to the taxpayers. But one of my big concerns, in this committee's concerns, is the siloing. We cannot afford ever again to go back to be siloing. When it started, we had manufacturing organizations in 3 or 4 sections of the state. They were almost in a competitive nature. And then the caucus came about and they were brought together, and then the chief manufacturing officer. So I just want, for the benefit of all, to kind of keep the history fresh in our mind, that it not be repeated. And now we have chief manufacturing officer. We have other important entities in the state like CONSTEP and CCAT. And what we're looking for is to see the convergence and the working together, and not the siloing or the competition. So I just share a bit of history with you all.
Well, thank you, Senator Hartley. And I will tell you that I am eternally grateful for the decision of the Manufacturing Caucus to create this position. I will tell you that through my long career, this is the best job I've ever had. It is a tremendous opportunity, and I thank you for that. I will tell you that this morning I had breakfast with Beatriz Gutierrez, who's the president and CEO of CONSTEP, and I have breakfast with her once a month. This afternoon, I'm meeting with Ron Angelo, who's the president and CEO of CCAT, and I have breakfast with him once a month. I also have breakfast with Kelly Valeries, our chief workforce officer, once a month. I also have breakfast with John Bordeaux, the president and CEO of Advanced CT, once a month. A very large part of my job is making sure that we are all working together, that we are all collaborating, and that we're all working together. And it is at my invitation that I'm having breakfast with all of these entities. And it really is just to make sure that we are all in lockstep as it relates to serving the manufacturing ecosystem. In addition to that, the Office of Manufacturing does not execute any programs. We do vision, leadership, strategy, and funding. All of our execution is done through our nonprofit partners. And so we meet with those partners such as Ready CT and Before CT Next as well on a very regular basis to make sure that the programs that the Office of Manufacturing and the Manufacturing Innovation Fund are funding are executed very well. So there is a very large spirit of cooperation and collaboration amongst all of these entities. The same thing with the workforce boards and the extension of the Office of Workforce Strategy as well. And I also have a monthly meeting with the Connecticut Manufacturing Collaborative where I update them from the monthly report that I produce on every activity that's happening in the Office of Manufacturing. And I'm regularly on a feedback cycle with all of our manufacturing associations. So I just wanted to let you know that I truly understand the importance of making sure that I always tell people that my job is knocking down silos and herding the cats and making sure that everybody is working together in achievement of the objectives in Connecticut's manufacturing strategic plan. And I will tell you that unequivocally Connecticut is the most collaborative and cooperative state that, and this comes from folks that are outside the state looking in when they look at how closely we work together to make sure that we're serving our manufacturers. So again, I thank you for the opportunity to be able to serve in this role. But I want you to rest assured that that we're not perfect, but we are all communicating on a regular basis and leveraging all of the resources that we have to make sure that we're serving our Connecticut manufacturers properly. And we're seeing results. We're seeing the state's GDP in manufacturing grow from 10% of the state's GDP in 2021 to 12.2% in 2022, to the early numbers in 2023 put state's manufacturing GDP at 13.2%, just behind 1 percentage point behind insurance and finance. So the Connecticut manufacturing sector is growing. It's growing well. We're continuing to provide opportunities for people for life-changing careers. And I'm proud of the work of the Office of Manufacturing and all of our collaborators, partners, both on the public and private side.
Thanks very much for that in-depth explanation, Paul. It's very instructive, and the breakfasts are great. We're looking at the collaboration. I'll ask my colleagues for comments. Yes, Representative Meskers.
Well, I'm going to cede my first questions to the Representative Cheeseman, who was here early with me and has asked to speak. So I will graciously cede to Representative Cheeseman.
Thank you very much, Chair Meskers. I suppose the early bird gets the worm. So thank you so much for coming here today. With the benefit of modern technology, I was able to look at your January report for the Office of Manufacturing on my phone. And looking at the programs that you administer, I'm particularly interested in the Manufacturing Concierge Program.
Mm-hmm.
I gather from that you're going to start reporting on results in 2024. That's administered through you. And I know when we talk about businesses succeeding, very often it's navigating regulatory hurdles, knowing how to work the system, knowing how to access grants. So would you mind sharing with us just how that works and how people find out about it and how they can go about availing themselves of that service?
Sure, absolutely. So essentially the way that it works is that any request that comes in to the Office of Manufacturing comes in directly to me, and any manufacturer that needs assistance, we connect them to the resources that they need. I spend a good percentage of my time visiting with manufacturers. I call it the L4 tour. It is listen, lean in, listen, learn, lean in, and link. So I'm listening to manufacturers, I'm leaning in, I'm learning what their challenges are, and I'm linking them to the resources. And we've just started to track what resources that we're providing to manufacturers. And so it really is a process where we are listening to what their challenges are and connecting them to the appropriate resources. It may be a grant for the purchase of equipment. It might be workforce training. It might be an introduction to their local workforce board. It all really depends. I always tell manufacturers, I'm going to give you 2 or 3 items that'll help solve your problems. But if those don't work, I have 2 or 3 more, and I have 2 or 3 more. Just keep coming back to us that our outward facing communication to manufacturers are, we are here to serve you. You are our customers. So as the Office of Manufacturing, our customers are the manufacturing sector, and we exist to serve them. We communicate this through all of the manufacturing associations, which represent a large portion of our manufacturers. For them to understand that, I'm incredibly visible within the manufacturing sector. I speak, just to give you an idea, in November of 2023, which is the Connecticut Manufacturing Month, I had 24 public speaking engagements. So on an average month, I can have 3 to 4 speaking engagements in front of manufacturing associations or manufacturers, or quite frankly, I've spoken to groups of bankers to make them, they serve our customers as well. So if a banker is serving a manufacturer, I want a banker to know the programs that we offer. And so we're getting the word out in that manner. And then I think it's important for us to be able to, we haven't tracked it only because of just the sheer volume of what we're dealing with, but the distinction of Connecticut having an Office of Manufacturing, of having a Chief Manufacturing Officer, of being the only state that has this role, is really getting a lot of really a lot of exposure around the state as it relates to manufacturing. In addition to that, I have a very strong social media profile. So one of my favorite things that I do, meaning not my favorite, but favorite from the people that I talk to, is every Friday morning I do the fastest 3 minutes in manufacturing. And that is a recap of what's happened in manufacturing in Connecticut during the week. It's a 3-minute video, unedited, unscripted and unedited, that goes out every Friday morning. that gives everybody an idea of what's happening in Connecticut manufacturing. So I always tell folks, if you don't really know that we have a chief manufacturing officer, an office of manufacturing, and that we offer these services, you need to get out of bed. So, because we're out here and we're available. And again, it's any given day I can have 2 to 3 requests that we're dealing with folks that are looking for resources. And it's not just, I'll give you an example. I had a manufacturer reach out to me and say, I don't know if you can help me, but the Department of Revenue Services overpaid us. So we sent the check back. And in sending that check back, the Department of Revenue Services thinks we owe them money. And just that's what happened. And we need to get a letter of good standing so that we can finish our ITAR registration. If I don't finish my ITAR registration, I can't ship product. Therefore, I'm in a real trouble here. And the Department of Revenue Services says they can get to me in about 3 weeks. I immediately made a call to Commissioner Boughton. Commissioner Boughton put me in charge with the deputy commissioner. This was on Monday afternoon. On Thursday morning, the issue was resolved. So that is another service. I always tell all the manufacturers, we're the point of last resort. I have, one issue, there's a permitting issue that a manufacturer is working on, and I'm been working on this for about 3 or 4 months. I haven't found the answer yet, but I'll find the answer for them eventually. So it just gives you this wide variety of services that our office provides for the manufacturing sector. They all, they have somebody that every single day is worrying about them and making sure they have what they need to be successful.
Thank you. Well, that in itself is testimony as to why this is an important position, because we know, anyone running a business being able to navigate state, but not only state, federal bureaucracy is important. So on the subject of workforce, again, looking at that January report, I see you have a number of open positions under you.
I do.
Yeah, grants and project specialists, a regional innovation officer, and an energy program manager. What cooks?
So those positions are all supported by federal funding. The energy position, we're waiting for the contract to be finalized with the Department of Energy before I can recruit. So that is a position that has been identified, but I can't, until I have a contract in place with the Department of Energy, I can't begin to recruit that. The Regional Innovation Officer position comes out of a grant that we won with the EDA for a regional tech hub. And we have just closed the recruiting for that position. We have received 51 qualified applicants. I don't know how many applicants we've received. This is qualified. So we're in the process of taking those qualified applicants to a reasonable level where we can start the interviewing process. And today we're interviewing for the grants and contract specialist, and we're very close to closing that position. So, so 2 of the 3 open positions are in process, and the 3rd one is just waiting for final approval from DOE, and then we'll begin the recruiting process for that.
Thank you. And
You're
I'm hopeful that you'll get the appropriate individuals soon to help you with your work. And this finally a comment, if the 2 chairs would indulge me. I think your emphasis on reducing the cost of doing business in Connecticut for manufacturers, particularly the smaller ones, is key. And I'm very happy to hear you promote the idea of association health plans, because we know for so many businesses that want to do the right thing, and by providing health insurance for their employees, it is becoming increasingly unaffordable, and they're having to pass those increased costs on. So anything, you can do to advocate for this, because I think it would be huge for the manufacturing community, the nonprofit community, and I look forward to hopefully getting it across the finish line this time. And thank you for your time. Thank you for coming in person today. Thank you to the chair.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Representative, Mr. Chair, and Representative Metzger.
Reclaiming my time, Madam
Yes,
Chair.
go
Thank you.
right ahead.
I want to start with some observations and a comment. In the past month in our public hearings related to manufacturing, we've had engaged with our university system, particularly community colleges. And I'm disappointed at the level of cooperation. I think we're turning the page, but I'm looking to see more support. I would point out notably in your conversations or commentary today, I didn't see a roll or breakfast with both our university system and our community college, and I would encourage that there be a monthly engagement. I want to make sure that the infrastructure, which is robust, and the physical plant, which is underutilized, becomes an intrinsic part of our manufacturing strategy in the state. And I've noticed either some reticence in the engagement or cooperation, which I think the attitude is changing, but I'm looking to see that our educational system supports more robustly those manufacturing needs. In your comment in relation to needs being driven by the manufacturers, I'll make the observation, the CBA does a very good job of representing the larger industrial groups. The Restaurant Association seems to do a good job in representing the restaurants. The smaller manufacturers, where I find the problem structurally resides, is our successful defense industry, which I love. I'm not going to criticize, has created a giant sucking sound of finished, of trained employees with some level of engineering manufacturing skill set are being seconded or taken up by our major industry. So the training is a twofold training. Asking where the shortfalls are, the major industrial groups will give us an idea of framework for training that will be applicable to the 4,000 some odd manufacturers in the state. I think we have to help design the programs versus waiting for them in an individual idiosyncratic way to tell us where their shortfalls are, because there's 4 or 5 minor engineers, 4 or 5 engineers in training, 4 or 5 technicians at these firms. So I think we have to look at what our system can produce to people those job shortages. So I encourage you to, while you're hoping for the demand side, I think the supply side needs work in this state. And I would direct you, particularly what I found concerning was the report from, I believe it was Pete Marwick at Constep, and was a report related, oh, sorry about that, Ernst Young. My daughter works for KPMG, I have to be careful. So the report by Ernst Young in relation to the shortfalls and the aging of our workforce in manufacturing, and more importantly, that a good portion of our manufacturing was at the low value added and the risk. So those are things structurally that we want to make sure that there's more of the higher value added coming from our defense industry into our manufacturers in state. So we're robustly supporting what the less commoditized portion of the manufacturing side, because the risk on the commoditized side, given energy prices, given the cost of doing business in Connecticut, we've got to make sure we're up our game on the higher, finer skill sets. So I just, those are the observations I'll make to start with, that I really like to see better cooperation and working among the agencies. And lastly, I'm thrilled with the advocacy with the DRS, and at some level disappointed not in you, but I find myself in that role many times too. And one of the things I'm encouraging the agencies of the executive is we need to work on policy, to the extent that to have someone in your role resolving the issues on the DRS, it's good if we get it done and we fix the policy issue or the turnaround time, but it's not something that you or I should be doing on a daily basis. And I find within our agencies, our interaction requires us to advocate daily, and we fix a problem, but we don't fix a process. So there's a lot of process issues that I still think are wanting. And I guess those would be my responses. I'm celebrate the role you have. I think the interagency cooperation needs to be upped, and I'm not accusing the manufacturing office of not cooperating. I'm suggesting that the cooperation across the board has to be upped, including our educational system. We need to be more seamless. My Office of Policy Management, it's, as I've said this in our public meetings, is a budgetary office. It's not a policy management office. I'm not sure why, but I need policy up in this state, and I'd love your cooperation on that.
Thank you very much. I just to respond to a couple of things. I have lunch with Dr. Meduco and Chancellor Levy-Brown as well. So I do meet with them on a quarterly basis, but I do sit on the board of CTEX, which is our technical high school system as well. So, but you're right, I'm always looking for regular conversations with folks. And And the breakfast is just not a breakfast. It's talking about how we collaborate. It really is working together to collaborate.
And if I could interrupt, just
Yeah.
there's physical plant issues and there's physical plant capacity.
Yeah.
That's an opportunity I don't think is being fully utilized. So
Yeah.
everyone has their own fiefdom. I think that I want to up the game at the university system and the community colleges to
Mhm.
look at physical plant to share it with our manufacturing community.
Thank you. In addition to that, I also meet with the deans of all the private colleges on a regular basis as well. So invited to do that. I will, as it relates to interagency cooperation, I would like to just correct a statement by Senator Hartley. I am not a cabinet level position. I work in the Department of Economic and Community Development, and I report to the Commissioner of DECD. So I don't have access at those levels to be able to support interagency collaboration, but that's the method in which I work with all of our agencies at the level that I can work at. So thank you.
Well, we have our representative from DECD here, so I'm sure we'll be taking notes. So that will be follow-up conversations next session about the level of cooperation. Perfect.
Thank you, Representative Meskers. Comments, Representative Harrison.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I heard and applaud the fact that you are out meeting for breakfast meetings. How's that? On a regular basis with all of these agents. Oh, well,
Partners.
Partners.
Consider them to be partners.
Yes.
Yes.
What are you doing though? I don't want to see you necessarily be the go-between to all of these agencies. What are you doing to bring them together and facilitating perhaps a roundtable discussion with all of them?
So I have created a manufacturing cabinet. That manufacturing cabinet meets monthly. On the manufacturing cabinet is Constep, CCAT, Ready CT, CT Next, Advanced CT has 2 members, and our Chief Workforce Officer. The manufacturing cabinet meets on a monthly basis to discuss current issues within the manufacturing sector and to make sure that all of those agencies are working together and collaborating. We learn a tremendous amount of information in those monthly cabinet meetings as to what other agencies are doing. But the most important thing that comes out of those cabinet meetings is how we can continue to work together. So while I have individual meetings to make sure that the partners that I'm working with that we're in lockstep, I have created a manufacturing cabinet that meets on a monthly basis that is talking about cooperation and collaboration at all of those levels. And it includes all of the stakeholders that I fund.
Thank you. And
welcome.
what are we doing to make sure that we address everything from our large manufacturers down to our small manufacturers? Each of them provide something for our economy, and we want to make sure we support all of them.
That's a great question. Thank you for that. I spend a great deal of time with our large manufacturers. I have relationships with the presidents and CEOs of all of our large manufacturing companies here in the state. 2 weeks ago, I was down in Washington, D.C. with Electric Boat and Newport News Shipyard at the Submarine Supplier Conference, where at the evening dinner, I sat with Kevin Graney and the president of Newport News Shipyard, as well as their supply chain people as well, and many of their large vendors. So I'm keeping a very great relationship with our large manufacturers because I need to understand where they're going and how we can support them, but more importantly, how I can support their supply chain and how I can make sure that the smaller businesses in the state are going to be moving in the same direction as our large manufacturers. Last week, I was out at Seattle with Pratt & Whitney at an air show where we were talking about how we can work closely. It was a supply chain show, and there were 18 Connecticut companies that were in Seattle. And so we were talking about how we can make the supply chain more resilient for Pratt & Whitney and for Collins Aerospace. I have a meeting coming up with Kaman, the president and CEO of Kaman Aerospace, to talk about what their challenges are and to make sure that they're being served properly as well. When we go to the Farnborough Air Show, we have meetings in the chalets of all of the large manufacturers that are here in the state of Connecticut. So a key part of my role, Representative Harrison, is making sure that I have relationships up and down our large manufacturers, meaning not just with the president and CEO, but with all of their key leadership team as well, so that I can fully support them. I get calls from them all the time when they have issues or they need some help as well. But the most important part of that is for me to understand directionally where they're going and to make sure that I'm putting the the process in place to make sure the supply chain is moving along with them. I don't want to have a disconnect between our large manufacturers and our supply chain. A case in point with that is one of the major initiatives coming out of the submarine industry is additive manufacturing. And I was in Washington, D.C. with Ron Angelo and Jackie Garofano from CCAT. The three of us were there. They are our supplier of additive manufacturing technologies. And from that is coming conversations about how we can support if Electric Boat and Newport News Shipyard are moving into additive manufacturing, Connecticut will be the epicenter of additive manufacturing for their supply chain, knowing that their supply chain right now for Electric Boat is in 49 different states. So we're designed to make Connecticut the epicenter of whatever Electric Boat is working on, and you can substitute any large manufacturer for Electric Boat. When we're talking about sustainable aviation fuel and RTX, we're talking about Lockheed Martin and digital transformation through Sikorsky, Command Aerospace. Those are just off the top of my head, some of the conversations that we've had recently and some of the meetings that I have scheduled. So that's an excellent point, and thank you.
So let me maybe dig it a little bit deeper. Is your answer does indicate, what you're doing to help the large manufacturers. And I do understand that the smaller, manufacturers bring the stuff up the supply chain. But I'm not hearing anything about what you're doing to dive a little bit deeper and get down into what we're doing with the small manufacturers.
In what sense?
So, your meetings are with the large ones, and I understand that those are what their needs are. How are you meeting with the small ones?
I meet with small manufacturers on a regular and consistent basis, whether I'm meeting with them at their facilities, whether I'm meeting with them if there is a job fair or any kind of fair where there are manufacturers gathered, I am there. Working with them and talking with them. I meet with manufacturers with 2 employees, 3 employees, 4 employees. I don't distinguish. 4,538 manufacturers are my customers. And if my customer needs me, I'm there for my customer, whether they have 3 employees or whether they have, 25,000 employees like Electric Boat does. So again, my role with the large manufacturers is to make sure I understand where they're going, and then to make sure that I'm supporting the small manufacturers so they have what they need to be successful and to make sure that they're continuing to grow as well. So I'm, happy to share with you the list of manufacturers that I visit and, the size of those manufacturers, but I can assure you that on a regular basis, I am out in the manufacturing community. There's the Smaller Manufacturers Association, of which I attend their events on a regular basis, and I'm invited to speak at as well. We're in the process of putting together a manufacturing resource fair with Manufacturer CT, which is a one-stop shop for every service that's offered to manufacturers, and we're going to bring all the manufacturers in. It's perfect for small to medium-sized manufacturers. So there's no, I could talk all day to you about all of the manufacturers and the ones that we visit and the ones that we serve and how we serve them. I can assure you that from the smallest manufacturer to the largest manufacturer, they get the same level of customer service from the Office of Manufacturing.
Thank you. We just want to make sure, while, our large manufacturers are very important to the state of Connecticut, but, maybe make sure that we're increasing the supply chain to come from the small manufacturers from the state of Connecticut. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Harris, and Senator Martin.
Thank you. I was waiting for your cue. Good morning, Paul. Thanks for coming.
Thank you, Senator.
Paul, I just want to echo your I guess your breakfasts. What Representative Mesker said regarding the speaking to the universities and Dr. Maduko and Dr. Chen. We've had numerous conversations with them. And I think that making sure that everybody's on the same page, or to use Representative Mesker's, we're not operating out of individual silos. I think that communications is critical. You also mentioned the cabinet, the manufacturer's cabinet. I didn't see them on that list as well. I'm just going to throw it out. Maybe they should be included in that, as well as manufacturers. I know we've got these entities who are participating in your breakfasts and the cabinets, but I didn't see any manufacturer at that round table. Can you, you know?
Sure.
is-
The cabinet meeting is not designed for manufacturers. It is designed for it's designed for our the folks who are providing services to the manufacturers to collaborate and to cooperate. We're all getting feedback from manufacturers. The Manufacturing Advisory Board, for example, is the fund, the Manufacturing Innovation Fund Board is all made up of manufacturers. And then I'm meeting with the CMC, which is the heads of all the associations of all the manufacturers on a monthly basis as well. So I have a very strong feedback loop from the manufacturing sector into my office. But the cabinet meeting, and I agree with you, the addition of CT State to the cabinet would be a great addition, and I'll take care of doing that. That's a
Great.
great suggestion.
Thank-
But the cabinet meeting is really for us to all talk about what are each of us doing, so that we can sit there and say, I didn't know you were doing that. I'm doing something similar to this. We should do this together. So it's really driving that collaboration amongst those groups as well. I maintain very open communication with all of our associations and all of our manufacturing groups. At this point in time, other than the CMC, which I consider to be a Manufacturing Advisory Board, and the regional sector partnerships, which are all made up of manufacturers, I use those as well as advisory boards from the manufacturing sector. So with the CMC, which represents 9 organizations, and the 5 manufacturing RSPs around the state, I have a very strong network of manufacturing advisors, if you will, in addition to the Manufacturing Innovation Fund Advisory Board.
So Paul, I think you and I have been on this trail for a long time together, right? And we've been hearing the outcry. And it really was led, about regarding workforce.
Yep.
And the lack of the skilled
Yep.
workforce that we have been experiencing, and really it's the manufacturing sector that led this charge going back a decade ago. The 100,000 jobs that are available, is that fair? Is that the
That would
last
be-
number I
That's
heard?
100,000 total jobs in the state of Connecticut. That's not
Okay, now how
manufacturing.
many in the manufacturing sector?
Manufacturing represents 10% of the workforce of the state of Connecticut. So we estimate 10,000 of those 100,000 would be manufacturing
That
jobs.
you are short of
Yes,
jobs?
we would consider 6,500 open jobs at full employment, meaning that, if there's 4,500 manufacturers and they'll have one job open because somebody quit
Yeah.
to take another job, there's going to be a number. So we're really looking to fill approximately 3,500, 4,000 open jobs within the manufacturing sector.
So I know you've only been on the job a year and a half.
2 years.
so 2
yeah,
years.
in February.
So
yeah.
is there a metrics, so we've got, I'll use 5,000 as a base here. So is there a metrics that there's attrition that takes place every single year? And we've got all these programs now that you've done a great job assembling, and
Mhm.
you're bringing people to the table to talk about what needs to be done. But so I guess I'm looking for the results. So if the needle was at 5,000 when you started, where's the needle now? And where can we expect the reduction in jobs to take place? I hear you about the lack of skill of people, basically. Listen, this is a demographic issue where all the industries regarding manufacturing, medical, finance, STEM, trades, the list is they are all there. Fact of the matter is, it's a demographic issue.
Mhm.
Baby boom generation, 78 million. The next generation is 10% less. And they are at the top of the bell curve. They got to take care of us baby boomers. They got to take care of themselves as well as the next generation after them. There is just not enough of people to take care of that. So we're here, it's here, and we've got to sort of solve it as best as we can. So with that said, regarding the metrics and
Mhm.
regarding as to all these programs that we're putting into place, how can we measure the effectiveness of this? I guess,
Yeah.
and is there something that you're keeping and
that-
that you can provide to us?
That's a great question. I am not. I would have to check with our chief workforce officer who is maintaining the metrics on the workforce and open jobs. I can tell you that the job numbers in the manufacturing sector are relatively flat, which means that, but however, GDP is growing and is growing significantly. So I have come, Senator Martin, I've come to the conclusion that Connecticut is in the position that we're in because of the significant investments that we've made in workforce development. And what I mean by that is that if we haven't done what we've done in workforce development, the problem would be considerably worse. It would be considerably worse. And here we are, one of the, I would call us, and again, I do spend some time at the federal level, I would call us one of the most sophisticated states in the United States when it comes to workforce development. We're the only state with a chief workforce officer. Virginia is now following suit, but we're the only state that has the governor's attention around workforce at the level that we have. But yet here we stand with 100,000 open jobs and 5,000 open jobs in manufacturing, if you will, choose that number. So are we making progress? We're not, but we're not going backwards. And I think that's a testament to the investments that we're making. That's a 1/3 of a solution. Workforce development is 1/3 of the solution. The second third is workforce growth. Simply put, we need more people. We need to take a look at our labor participation rate. We need to eliminate barriers for people to get back into the workforce, and we're doing that. We're looking at transportation. You're looking at childcare. We're looking at affordable housing. The legislature and the governor are putting all of our efforts into how do we get more people into Connecticut to take the open jobs that we have, and then how do we get people who are unavailable to work because of barriers that we can eliminate back into the workforce. We have one of the highest labor participation rates in the country, but quite frankly, it can be higher. That's the second leg of the solution. That alone will not solve the problem as well. Workforce development will not solve the problem, and workforce growth will not solve the problem. The third lane of solving this problem is a problem that we underutilize right now, and it is one of my key objectives over the next 6 years. And that is, how do we drive industrial automation to do the work for people we're never going to have to do the work? So we may not see job growth in the manufacturing sector, but we will see productivity growth, we will see efficiency growth, and we will see GDP growth because companies all across the state are automating processes because of the lack of available workforce. So I would expect us to see the number of open positions drop. My goal is to get to full employment in the manufacturing sector by 2030. And what that means is that we need the robust workforce development plans, we need a robust workforce growth plan, and then we need a robust workforce innovation plan to be able to drive innovation. And that's an area where we are currently under-focused and under-resourced in making sure that we're providing manufacturers with what they need to make sure that we have a unique opportunity in manufacturing. We can have machines do the work for people that we're never going to have. And I will say this many, many times, this is not a job replacement strategy at all. This is a job enhancement strategy. We have a pharmaceutical company in New London, Connecticut, that was a $30 million company with 240 employees. They are now a $45 million company with 180 employees. Those 180 employees are making almost equal to what those 240 employees were making as it relates to payroll dollars, but they also invested $20 million in industrial automation. That's Connecticut's answer. That's the answer to full employment, is how do I drive industrial automation so that where I needed 7 people to do a job, I can do it with the machine and 1 person, and that 1 person is a much higher job that we need to upskill and we need to train. So the answer to the workforce challenge is those 3 issues. And I am thankful every day that Connecticut has the workforce development system that we have, because if we didn't, I can't imagine the situation we would be in. I am thankful every day that the legislature and the governor are 100% focused on making sure that we create job growth. And my mission over the next 6 years is to drive industrial automation to the point where we can get to full employment in the manufacturing sector.
I think that's good foresight on your part, Paul, regarding the automation of the industry, and particularly, we've been hearing about the industry 4.0, and I think it sounds like you're on top of that. Can I ask you? You testified, or you submitted testimony for 2 of the study bills. But you didn't, to my surprise, you didn't testify or send anything in for SB 430. And that is what's going on at Tunxus right now, regarding the loan. Can you speak to that a little bit? Because I'm a little bit surprised, because of what the intent of that building is, or that funding is. We've been at this for a year, starting with assembling a work group to specifically regarding Industry 4.0. We learned through the process that Tunxus was not going to fund the advanced manufacturing class for this building that they purchased. They came to us and we spent $8 million to renovate a portion of the building. To my surprise, it wasn't the entire building, 45,000 square feet. It's already built. And so they bought equipment to fund it for that program. And then they were going to make it mothball it pretty much until we stepped in and we had a meeting with Dr. Maduko and Chancellor Chen, and we sort of said, this doesn't make any sense. Why would you not promote a program where we know this is an industry that we have been targeting, specifically with your job and with the Office of Workforce Strategy with Kelly. It just didn't make any sense. Well, they did, after our meeting with them, they did find the money that was going to be needed, and we're happy to learn that they are now going to be having this advanced manufacturing class curriculum in the fall. The rest of the building is part of the work group, and the report that they came out with was to address the need of addressing the workforce for the next generation, right? The 4.0 industry. So I'm surprised that you didn't know more about this. I heard your reply, but can you just speak to that? And they're looking for $4 million, and I hope that's enough to take care of 35,000 square feet. But is there a reason why you didn't testify?
Sure, absolutely. Two reasons. Number one is that I support the governor's budget. And number two is that I have not seen the report. So I really have no background in which to, I'm now learning today that this report has been completed and submitted. I have not had any knowledge of the report of actually being completed. Had I didn't know to ask the question. Let me put it that way. Early on in this process, I would get updates from Mark Brzezinski on the project. I haven't gotten an update in months and have not seen the report. So I'd certainly be happy to comment once I have an opportunity to review the findings of the working group to help understand what they found and what they recommend. And again, I will go on record in saying that if it is a demand-driven workforce development program that meets the needs of the industry, there's no reason I would not support a program like that. So,
Okay. Yeah.
So I wasn't qualified to comment on it
Okay.
with the right information.
All
So,
right, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator Martin. Representative Meskers.
So, respectfully, I understand your role in the executive in the governor's budget. In the prior session, the DCD Commissioner, Alexandra Down, told me that $25 million was adequate for remediation. And I think I hooked Senator Martin and Senator Hartley into upping it to 35 per session. And in our report yesterday, yesterday in bonding or one of the committee meetings, I heard the applications and demand were at 46 million on remediation. respectfully, I understand your role on the budget. That's not my role on the budget. So I would hopefully, and I don't expect you to contradict the governor's budget, but probably we need to rethink the role of the Commerce Committee in relation to some of your inquiry with community so that our input is more robust on budgetary needs that might arise in terms of workforce development. So any cooperation and collaboration, we may come to a different place. You have to represent the executive on a budgetary goal. I recognize that. That's the legislature has its own prerogative. So I'm hopefully that we'd be more in the loop as with some of your tours around the state, meeting with some of the manufacturing groups to figure out their needs from our side, to see where we can lean in to achieve what we want. Particularly if the history of this Tonksys is any indication, these are the problems we're facing that we're looking to solve. We need the resources in the right place at the right time to grow the state's economy. I want more taxpayers, not more taxes. I'll echo the governor on that. We might not agree on the budget, but we agree on that. So I just, any support you can give us in terms of information without conflicting with your role as in the executive would be appreciated.
Thank you, Representative. Are there further comments from colleagues? Paul, you've been very helpful and instructive, and a lot of information that hitherto myself and these colleagues have not, had the direct benefit. You did appear before us in appropriations, and that was also very instructive, talking about the programs and how things have scaled. You, I guess, clearly understand the impetus from this legislative committee with regards to the 4.0. We previous to this working group had a 4.0 working group, and this is kind of the next iteration of it. We've got significant state investment. We have the private sector at the table committed, and quite frankly, it checks all the boxes on your model of demand-based. And so I get it with regards to the budget, but we're in the stage where the legislature, now will opine on the budget. And so in that process, we're hoping to be able to, bring this to the next step. But I guess I will leave you with this. And thanking you for your leadership and your work, but also asking that you take a look at that report, that you get back to us and see where the synergies are, in your work with the IMF, and by the way, yeah, we get it. You're not literally in cabinet, but figuratively, you sure are. So it's about solutions. I like that. And we're looking for a solution for SB 430. So thank you so much, and we will continue to talk. And if there aren't any further comments, I will thank you once again for being with us.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity today. I appreciate it.
Thanks. And so next remotely, I think with us is Jennifer Jennings from the Connecticut Heating, Cooling Contractors Association. Jennifer, thank you for being with us. You have the floor, madam.
Thank you, Senator Hartley, and good morning. Oh, wait, no, we're in afternoon. Good afternoon to the Commerce Committee. I apologize for not being there in person today. I would have loved to have been there. Just work schedule did not allow for it, so this technology is fantastic. I am Jen Jennings. I'm the Executive Director of the Connecticut Heating and Cooling Contractors Association, CHCC. We represent the interest of about 85% of the Connecticut HVAC industry. And I'm here today on behalf of CHCC to express support for initiatives that promote economic growth and address workforce shortages, development, and training in Connecticut. I echo a lot of what Paul Lavoie actually just said and just transfer it over to the trades. How do we drive opportunity for entry into the trades? It's a question the association asks regularly as far as workforce development is concerned. I do look at things as well from a demand education-based model that we need to, I think, rely on industry. We need to ask from manufacturers to business owners to Connecticut industry overall, what are you looking for? What do you need out of our students? And I don't just mean in our college or post-secondary education, but what are you looking for even in our secondary? How do we prepare these kids as they graduate from high school to potentially not need to go to college to enter the workforce here in Connecticut and stay in Connecticut? So for the past 18 years, I've witnessed firsthand regulations that are imposed by the state of Connecticut that actually impede and restrict the workforce development inside the HVAC trade. It's actually limited to 5 trades. It's plumbing, heating, cooling, refrigeration, electrical, and fire sprinklers that are impacted by our hiring ratio. It's really a restriction. You have to employ 3 licensed technicians for every 1 apprentice. I couldn't imagine any other industry, whether it be nursing or teaching, police officers, any other industry that would require 3 licensed journeymen for every 1 person you're introducing into that particular trade. So it's really a simple solution on workforce, at least for the trades. This particular legislation is looking at putting in place another study. We've had a variety of iterations of studies. We've had a workforce, a work group in place for dating back to, I believe, Senator Cal Petro, going back to 2005 and 6 was studying the workforce shortage, and Representative Chris Stone at the time. And then it went on, and the current General Law Committee put in place the chairs there back in 2017, another working group. And unfortunately, we could study it all we want, but where's the action? This is a simple solution, truly just removing this hiring restriction. Keep your safety, your one-to-one job site in place. No need to change that, but there needs to be a way to address and take action outside of just studying this issue. And outside of just the hiring ratio, to truly look at what the need is for the industry. Paul Lavoie went on to talk quite a bit about energy and improving energy efficiency. While HVAC contractors are the workforce who are actually the ones improving that energy efficiency, environmental sustainability, a lot of our different programs that we have out there right now. If you look at the heat pumps, all of that is going to require a greater workforce. And what opportunities are we providing? I'm also a parent of 3 children, and I sit on my local school board. And I can tell you that we're pushing kids still in 2024 to go to college. What opportunities are there to truly graduate your high school and enter the trades? It's a wonderful career path. There are so many different opportunities outside of just turning the wrench to grow within the trades. So I'm here to support any initiative that opens up more opportunity for workforce development. But again, this is just another iteration of the study. I hope that part 2 to this is to put action behind or a policy behind the study. So thank you for your time today.
Well, thank you very much for your testimony. I'll kick it off. So the wrestling match I've heard in terms of interns and into the trades is a question of the progression between an internship and into the licensed trades. Do you have measurements in the studies? Because I've heard some describe it as providing a lower wage scale on the jobs and with less of a progression into the licensing in the professions. Do you know what the history looks like in the state so far? I mean, what you're suggesting is it's a barrier to entry and it's a limitation on bringing people into the field. How many of the people who start off as interns at this current cycle end up getting licensed and into the trades?
So yes, we do have a fair amount of study for that. The challenge with it, and we've asked the Department of Labor, the apprenticeship unit, to actually provide some of that information for us too. When you go and work for ABC Heating and Cooling and you leave for whatever ABC, for whatever the reason might be, whether it be an extra $1 an hour to be closer to home, a variety of work schedules, whatever the reason may be, you leave from company A to go to company B, and you're still doing the same work. ABC Plumbing and Heating or Heating and Cooling will get a termination on their apprenticeship program. And the next company that you're still working with. You're still working inside the same apprenticeship. So there has to be a way within the state to monitor that. It's not terminating a person. They're not actually leaving the industry. They're still working toward their trade license. But to answer that on a broader scale, we're very stagnant for an industry that has so much growth, from indoor air quality to, again, the heat pump conversions. We just came off of the natural gas expansion push. All of these energy measures require a heating license. They're looking at your D and your S license holders. And for an industry with so much growth and boom, the actual license holder numbers are stagnant. We're not growing our workforce. People are retiring out. Students are being pushed to graduate high school and go to college. And that's playing a role. And ultimately, the trades are really lacking in workforce development and a labor shortage. So yes, the answer is there is information. It's out there. The reports are out there. I think the Department of Labor should be able to provide us the information when somebody leaves one company and they go to another company. They should not be terminated. They should still be registered as an apprentice.
So I hear you. That's very helpful. The mobility issue and measuring mobility, this is a generation that is apt to change jobs multiple times. So I'm not surprised to see someone moving from one trade organization to another trade organization on exercising the same role. So I understand what you're suggesting is that the churn is not people leaving the industry, but people who are moving on to either maybe a different boss, a better boss, more opportunity, slightly higher wage. And you're suggesting they're showing as termination, and I guess being interpreted as bad faith versus an internship leading to licensing. That's kind of what you're suggesting, that we need to measure it better. And that's what I'm hearing. And I like the measure or the question you raised, which is we should be expanding the number of license holders if the demand, I sit on energy and technology, so it's not lost on me that the heat pumps, the solar, the growth in the infrastructure, whether it's charging stations, is all going to require a tremendous demand of licensed professionals. So you're right. It's something we'll have to look into. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Representative Cheeseman.
Thank you, Chairman. And thank you so much for coming here today. And it's not so much a question as a comment. I share your frustration with regard to hiring ratios. I was ranking on general law and then served on the committee, and we hear each year how much, in effect, restraint of trade these hiring ratios are, particularly from our Representative Tim Ackert, who was in the electrical field. So I share your frustration, particularly as we see an aging workforce in the skilled trades and the need to replenish those ranks. And I also share your concern that too many of our high schools continue to push people down the college route when we know a career in the skilled trades is a real career. And I'm so proud of the work of our Eastern Workforce Investment Board and the work they've done to get into the local high schools, not just the technical high schools, to introduce so many young people, returning people, retraining people to those trades. So I want to thank you for your work. We'll see what we can do about the hiring ratios and look forward to your help in growing our workforce.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Representative Cheeseman. Further comments from members? Jennifer, I just wanted to excuse myself because I was voting in another committee, but did have the benefit of your message to us. And yes, that is something that has always kind of been out there, and it needs, I think, some attention. The points that you bring up about those who have apprenticeships and leave in the middle of them and how they are then categorized. There's a lot of room here for updating and improvement. And I think that, this committee is very interested in engaging in that going forward. So thanks for being with us today and bringing us your real world information. And if there are no further comments from members, I just want to thank you again for being with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
And so there are no other individuals who are signed up, yet there is also with us today one of the members of the AMC work group that toiled over the interim and even before that. And so that's Mark Brzezinski. And Mark, if you would like to take the mic, it is all yours, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, and the distinguished members of the Commerce Committee. Thank you for the opportunity to speak on behalf of Bill 430. As was discussed, Bill 430 was a result of the report of the Advanced Manufacturing Working Group studying the project at Tunsis to create a model for an Industry 4.0 training center. That working group was the result of the Industry 4.0 working group, which was represented by all the major colleges and universities and a bunch of different manufacturers. And the result of that report was that one of the major conclusions was that we are not preparing our workforce for Industry 4.0, that it is coming, the technology is here, it's being utilized, but we are not preparing our workforce for it. That's the result. Senator Hartley asked, how do we get something done about this? And we suggested that the project at Tunxis was a great opportunity. It was partially completed. And so we formed the working group to look at the Advanced Manufacturing Center. Our report concluded that there's a great opportunity there, that all the pieces are in place. Paul talked about the need to automate to solve our workforce shortage. Well, as an automator, I've been in automated manufacturing my entire career here in Connecticut. Now work for one of the premier automation companies in the world at the Arthur G. Russell Company. The reason I'm so passionate about this is because we identified almost 10 years ago now, working with Constep when we did our SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, that our biggest threat in the automation industry is having a skilled workforce. We're kind of the tip of the spear when it as far as skilled technical workforce. We create this automation, and it requires great engineers. It also requires great technicians. For every engineer we employ, we have a skilled technician on our floor that is putting together what the engineers are designing, wiring it, programming it, and debugging it, and traveling the world to service it. We cannot find the talent that we need, and that we've identified that for over a decade. We find talent through poaching, basically, or recruiting from out of state, which is a difficult task to get skilled talent to move to Connecticut because of the cost of living here. So we have a great opportunity at Tunxis, and our report concluded that we have the industry support, and you heard the testimony from the other manufacturers in the area. We have a small but strong technology OEM sector in central Connecticut with the likes of Trump and Bauer and OK Industries, which is now Avna, Stanley Black & Decker, Otis. You know, we all require these skilled technicians, and we don't have a system to create them. CTEX is doing a good job at the high school level, but the skill sets that we're talking about are above and beyond what those students are coming out of CTEX with. So Paul talked about supporting demand-driven education. Well, this is a demand-driven project. We've identified that. But we also have to solve the supply side. And our proposed model addresses the supply side through creation of the Community Robotics Center. There are over 5,000 students, youth in Connecticut that participate in youth robotics programs, and there isn't a single practice field for those teams. There is the opportunity, excess space at the Spring Lane facility at Tunxis to create the first in the state Community Robotics Center, where these students can come together, collaborate, and have a place to practice, where industry can go and recruit those students. And the importance of youth robotics has been recognized by the Manufacturing Innovation Fund, which I sit on the advisory board of. We recently approved $2.2 million to support youth robotics programs in Connecticut. For that initiative to be successful, we need a strong and supportive ecosystem, and the Community Robotics Center would be the epicenter of that ecosystem to support and see that those funds are successfully deployed to expand and support the youth robotics in the state of Connecticut. I personally recognize the value of those students. The Arthur G. Russell Company since 2013 has hosted a FIRST Robotics team in our facility because there is no local school programs in the area. We were approached by the team. We support them. We house them. We give matching paid time off to our employees who mentor. We understand that that is the skills base where we're going to get our future workforce. So creating the Community Robotics Center at Tunxus would pool those resources together for all the local manufacturers to be able to tap into that. And then engage them in an apprenticeship program. We've proposed as part of the model a manufacturing apprenticeship consortium. There are models around the country, as Senator Hartley's mentioned, FAME being the leading one, which is sponsored by the Manufacturing Institute. It's very, very successful around the country. And the model is to pool local manufacturers with the same skill set needs to create and support a program at the local community college to provide the educational portion of that apprenticeship. That's what we've proposed. We've got the industry support in the area, and we want to create an apprenticeship consortium. We need a partner institution. We hope that's going to be CT State at Tunxus. So the report presented the capital needs to complete the building. Mentioned that 15,000 square feet of the building has been, bless you, Senator Representative Meskers. 15,000 square feet of the building has been renovated along with the parking lot and the offices. They're leaving 3,500 square feet, 3,400 square feet of the building available for completion of the renovation and expansion. So that's what the $4 million would accomplish. We'd be able to complete the building and equip the laboratory. It does not address the sustaining budget of the program, and that's something that needs to be addressed. And we're working with CT State to see where, as Senator Martin mentioned, they have found the money to fund the precision machining program there. But that's is somewhat duplicative of other programs within CT State. This Industry 4.0 robotics and mechatronics program that we're talking about is something above and beyond that, addressing the Industry 4.0 needs of the area manufacturers. And the proposal is to create a model, this center being focused on robotics and mechatronics, but other models at other community college campuses could be based on additive, could be based on cybersecurity, could be based on any of the Industry 4.0 technologies that are emerging and also have the training needs. So I strongly support the bill 430 to complete the project that's been started. I think it's a great opportunity. The governor announced 2 to 3 years ago what a great thing that was going to be, in conjunction with the National Science Foundation's National Center for Next Generation Manufacturing, which is to be housed there. It's a great opportunity to create a model and a showpiece within CT State. And I'm hoping that we can get the funding to complete the building and create this program. Local manufacturers are ready to put the skin in the game to make this happen, but we need a place to do it. So thank you for your support of the bill. Any questions?
Mark,
Yes.
so thanks for being here, and most of all, your advocacy which goes back now a couple of years ago. I remember you sitting in that seat. It's probably 2 years ago when we, I think, maybe started our conversation on looking into I 4.0 and scaling that. And so here we are today with, I think, what you have aptly described as an amazing opportunity. And things are lined up. They're not perfect, but they are lined up. And that was the mission of this working group to try to help connect the dots. Yes, we have the challenges right now with regard to the higher education partnership in view of their budgetary situations. However, with the investments that the state has made thus far in the location that you identify, that is Tunxus, we would be foolish and irresponsible, quite frankly, to not follow through on that. So I don't view the fact that, we've got the challenges with regard to the academic side right now, because equally important is to move the needle on this and capitalize, quite frankly, on what you have brought to the table, and that is the public-private partnership. Can you just, as a start, talk about the partnership that is engaged in this, and what, in fact, you talked about the fact that they have committed skin in the game. What is the skin in the game, and tell us about that public-private partnership?
Well, we've investigated several apprenticeship models around the country, FAME being the leading one and the most well-known, so I'll talk about FAME. What FAME does is it gets a group of area manufacturers with similar workforce needs to work with a local community college partner to create a curriculum or align a curriculum with their workforce needs. And then through a cohort-based model, the area manufacturers essentially guarantee the butts and seats for supporting the program. Typically cohorts are 18 to 24 students. So we would gather enough industry support to say we will fund a cohort for this semester. So the enrollment is essentially guaranteed. The students are paid while they're working and going to school. Typically, they go to school 2 days a week and work 3 days a week, making substantial wages. We pay our apprentices in the area of $25 an hour. So they would have a guaranteed enrollment. And essentially guaranteed employment for the students when they complete the program. Typically, the programs are 4 to 5 semesters, and the students graduate with an associate's degree. So that's one thing that differentiates this program from some of the workforce programs that we have, whether it be CTEX or some of the certificate programs currently offered. This is an associate's level program, and it would be fully aligned with the program at Central Connecticut State. So if the student wanted to keep going, and typically the employer would pay through tuition reimbursement if the student was willing to or interested in going on, they could complete their bachelor's degree and get a degree in engineering if they wanted. That's the model, and the skin in the game is really the guaranteed both enrollment and essentially guaranteed employment. After investing in a student for 2 to 2.5 years, I'm not going to let that employee get away. I'm going to hire them and entice them to stay on with me and hopefully continue their education. So that's the model. We really need a commitment from CT State that they would offer the program in order to invest the time, because there is an organizational effort, an educational effort on the manufacturer's side to organize the chapter, the FAME chapter, and get on board and recruit the students. That's another thing that the industry side does, is they recruit the students. What we envision is that employers would go to the Community Robotics Center on any given weekend when the students are down there and scout and recruit students for the apprenticeship program in order to fill those seats. So it's kind of a a supply through demand model. One thing I didn't mention was the effort to coordinate dual credit opportunities, as Representative Meskers coined it, AP manufacturing, and that is another segment of the report, was to work with CT State in develop an AP manufacturing or a credit bearing high school program, so that we could engage and expand the interest in manufacturing from our youth. CTEX is a wonderful program. It is very limited. Bristol Tech, or across the street from us, they have about a dozen students in the mechatronics program right now. That's not going to make a dent in those 5,000 jobs. We need to engage the comprehensive high schools, and our proposal is to develop that curriculum for the entire state to be able to offer AP manufacturing courses.
Thank you, Mark. Very, very instructive. So how would you answer this? The state has advanced manufacturing programs in its community college system. And how would this not be duplicative of that model? And I guess the other part to that question is, globally, are we really teaching 4.0 in our higher education institutions?
So I think the term advanced manufacturing is kind of misunderstood. What is typically advanced manufacturing being taught throughout most of CT State is precision machining and CNC machining. Well, I started at the Torrington Company 43 years ago when we were doing 5-axis CNC machining. So it's not real advanced anymore. Yes, the equipment's gotten more precise and less expensive, but it's still CNC machining. What we're terming advanced manufacturing, and the reason we coined the phrase Advanced Technology Education Center for the program at Tunxus, was to distinguish it from the current advanced manufacturing. On the second part of that question, Senator Hartley, yes, CT State does have an appropriate curriculum offered at SNUNTUC. They do have robotics and mechatronics, both a certificate and the associate's level program at SNUNTUC. As you heard testimony from Jessica Chavez from Trump, who has one of the largest apprenticeship programs in the state, that is not working for them. Driving an hour to an hour and a half in traffic 2 to 3 days a week to attend courses for the apprentices is not a workable solution. We need a local offering where the local manufacturers can assess that training. And that's what we're proposing at Tunxus. We're not proposing creation of new curriculum. What we really would recommend starting with, at least, is just replicating the curriculum offered at SNUNTUC at Tunxus. We heard testimony and reports, students are trying to go to this program and they're going to Middlesex, or they're having to go to SNUNTUC to go to school, and it's just untenable for students to make an hour to an hour and 20-minute commute. So it's not a heavy lift from the curriculum and curriculum development side to offer the programming at SNUNTUC at Tunxus, and that's where we're recommending to start. It could be tweaked from there, but so yes, it's being offered, but in essentially one location. There's also a program up at Quinnebog Valley, which is in the quiet corner of the state, which is even further away. So these are local programs. Tony Davis from FAME Manufacturing Institute told me that the most successful chapters are the ones that are locally based, that they need to be the community colleges and the employers need to be within 30 minutes of each other for this model to work. So that's why we're advocating for Tunxus with our area manufacturers.
And so with regard to what the demand is and the growing demand, do you know, by chance, is the Asnuntuck program and the Quinnipiac program fully enrolled?
I do not know. I believe that Asnuntuck is. I don't know about Quinnebog. I can get that information from Mary Bidwell, who is coordinates the manufacturing programs at CT State and created the program at Asnuntuck.
Okay.
But
And
you know what the manufacturing base is in Enfield is. I don't know. I'm not familiar with the area manufacturers in that area, and to what their workforce needs are and whether they're as strong as they are here in central Connecticut.
and is there any other model that has the public-private participation as we are envisioning here, and also the pipeline? Because your model is kind of a stem to stern. You're talking about, you know, the pool from which the likely recruits will come, and that is the robotics. These are individuals who have already dipped their toe into this world, which is very intriguing, engaging for students at that age and that level, and then bringing them along as recruits. You say the industry does the recruiting to fill the seats, which, by the way, the CSU system is, you know, really challenged in trying to do. And then upon the completion, the full employment and also meeting the needs of an employer. So is there any other model that you know of that exists that has that full gamut?
Yes, there's another model we studied is called the Space Coast Consortium Apprenticeship Program. It's was put together by area space industry manufacturers
Connecticut?
it's in Florida.
Okay.
That's so they are actually automating the production of satellites in Florida. They're working with East Florida State Tech and created a curriculum to supply them the talent that they need. They're also have expanded to composite manufacturing and other aspects of and other aspects used in the space industry. So that model is done. It was done on a private basis. It's more of a German-based apprenticeship model than FAME is. FAME is a Toyota-based model, both of which are perfectly suited. And when we form the consortium, we will study both and see what which model best suits our area manufacturers. But in order to form that consortium, in order for myself or other members of the working group to go out and try to get commitment from area manufacturers, we need commitment from the from CT State that a program is going to be offered. I don't want to go out and try to raise engagement and get people involved in something that's not going to happen. So what we've asked Dr. Maduko and Chancellor Chen was that we would like a commitment that this curriculum would be offered at Tunxus in the fall of 2025, giving us the opportunity to form the consortium, get the training we need, recruit the students, and be able to have those seats filled when the program commences hopefully in the fall of 2025.
Thanks, Mark. And then you bring up Florida, and, you know, I can't help but remember some years ago when we were in the competition with Florida and North Carolina over Sikorsky, and I'm not sure if it was the Black Hawk, which iteration of the helicopter. And it was only because of our education and advanced manufacturing system that we were able to edge out that competition and keep that contract here for an additional 30 years, and that obviously the manufacturing and the supply chain and the whole network. So these things are very important in terms of institutionalizing. Thank you very much. And I know my colleagues have questions, and Representative Meskers.
I haven't been with you as long as Senator Hartley, but I want to personally thank you for the advocacy. I think the vision, the advocacy, the drive that you bring to this is remarkable. So first, thank you for your testimony and your advocacy. I heard from our manufacturing czar, if you will, the supply-demand equation. I think you've eloquently put where you see this rest between the supply and demand and the commitment from the state. And so, as I understood from your testimony, what you said was basically you need a commitment from the state to move the project forward. And that's commitment being from our community college system, right?
Yep. Well, we need to finish the building as well, and
Yeah.
that's not within their control. So the bill to complete the facility, along with a commitment that they're supportive of the stated industry need and can come up with the funding to do that. I know that that's the elephant in the room. Where's the funding going to come to sustain this program? Hopefully having a guaranteed enrollment, if you will at least offset some of the costs. And the subsidizing the manufacturing workforce, I think, is a small price to pay for the potential economic gains of not only attracting high technology businesses, but sustaining the ones that we already have. Frankly, the reason that I'm so committed to this is because we want to continue to grow and sustain the Arthur G. Russell Company, and we want to do it here in Connecticut. I see these programs blossoming all over the country, in Alabama and Tennessee and Kentucky, Florida, Ohio, Indiana, and it's not happening here. And I want to see that happen here. Industry 4.0, I spoke at the Small Manufacturers Association dinner last night. All small manufacturers. This Industry 4.0 technology is going to touch all of them if it already hasn't. And they are going to need workers. Hasim Hisham from CCAT gave a presentation last night showing that the closed loop CNC machining, to be able to have the machine automatically adjust and program itself, and the skill sets are changing, and they're changing very rapidly. And the educational system needs to adjust and adapt as rapidly, or we're just going to be left behind because other states are doing it.
I think that's the most powerful message we all need to hear and understand, is that we need to step up to the plate. We need to create the robotics programs and the infrastructure. We need to start here and look across the state to sustain our state's growth in manufacturing and advanced manufacturing. And so I really appreciate your testimony.
Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Meskers. Yes, Senator Martin.
Yeah, quickly, Mark, thank you for everything that you're doing. I know this began 2 years ago, and you're plowing the field for us right now. And I think hopefully the fruits will come to fruition in a short amount of time. I think, you do the quick math on this. I thought you said maybe one of our earlier meetings, 26 students, let's call it 50 a year. Is that fair to say? And within a 10-year period, we got 500, in 500 individuals in the workforce earning a pretty good salary. And I think the rate of return, I know I heard you say $1 million just for the program itself to be sustainable after the building costs, right? The capital improvements. I think it's behooves us to go down this path and make sure that we do make sure that this infrastructure is in place for us. So thank you for everything that you've done.
You're welcome. What we've proposed is not just the single center. We want to create a working model that can be expanded throughout the system and throughout the state to address the concerns of other local manufacturers, whatever their skill set requirements are.
So Mark, just this Florida model, that's interesting because it sounds like they're very specific to their end product, so to speak, and their whole workforce education portion of it is all geared towards that industry. And that's an option that we have here.
Yes, that's what we proposed, a robotics and mechatronics program in conjunction with the robotics and mechatronics program at CCSU. They need a feeder program as well to expand their program. So it's local industry working with the local community college on a specific curriculum and skill set, creating jobs or creating talent for that workforce. This could be done at Capital Community College in Hartford on a cybersecurity level. The insurance companies and the fintech companies, they need a cyber program. They could do the same thing, or an additive program or AI program. But the model is, the local school working with the local companies to support that workforce need.
Yeah. Understood. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Senator Martin. Further comments from colleagues? Mark, seeing none, thanks so much for being here again. And let's keep on moving.
Thank you for having me. Hopefully we can get this done.
Yes, we're all in the same place. Thank you so much. And Madam Clerk, is there any other individuals who are wishing to speak? And seeing none, I will at this point close our final commerce public hearing. Thanks all for being with us, and we move on now to our next step. Thank you. Good day to everybody.